Okay, here we go. All right, very good. So I'm going to wait for Monique to get the slideshow up and running.
And maybe now we've all said hello, we can mute
Oh yeah, let's do that.
ourselves.
Yeah.
Okay.
Monique, are you able to bring up the slideshow?
Yes, I am having a moment of, I had it all working well, and now, hold on 2 seconds.
No problem. Hey, Jackie.
Hi.
Chris, good to see you.
Good evening. Good to see you.
Yeah,
Hi.
and Ivy's joined us. Hi,
Yeah.
Ivy.
Well, I'm going to go ahead while we're waiting for the slideshow to come up. I'm just going to briefly go through the agenda. Tonight, we're really going to focus on our 3 priority bills that we've already selected, and we've got fabulous speakers for each of these bills. And then we are going to vote on a few additional priority bills. Then we are going to talk briefly about lobby days, calls to action, a few other items of business. So that's our agenda. I want to start the meeting off by really thanking both Meredith and Monique for unbelievable amounts of work over the last few weeks. Meredith has done an incredible job maintaining all of our bills on spreadsheets, tracking them. Monique has been interfacing with media, managed to get media to come to the wonderful Network Nova power lunch this past week, where all the Grassroots Coalition working groups talked about their priority bills. So thanks to you both for your tireless efforts. And I want to give a shout out to Robin Kent, who, bless his heart, has been sucked in by the coalition to track all of our priority bills from all of the working groups. So I say bravo to all of you guys. So we've got our agenda, and what I'd really like to do now is go to the next slide, which talks about our broad priorities for the 2024 session.
It's not letting, oops, sorry. There we go.
Right, there we go. Monique, you're on.
Sure. This should be a repeat for most of you, but to summarize, these are the broad priorities that we've stated. Mainly defending the existing law, the Virginia Clean Economy Act, RGGI, clean cars. You've seen our first action on that. In the electric utility space, increasing energy efficiency and distributed solar, and regulatory reform and oversight. Data centers seems like it's going to be a big one this year as well. You're going to hear more about that this evening. About now we have specific bills that have dropped and focus on one that we're looking at, promoting the use of clean energy and energy efficiency tied to the sales and use tax credits that they get. On the solar, really trying to reduce all the barriers that are preventing more solar to be installed, essentially. And then nuclear, just keeping an eye on that. Concerns related to siting and the cost of modular reactors. So with that, I turn it back over to you, Sharon.
Excellent. So I am so happy to introduce our first guest, who's going to pop up right now. Yes? Why don't we all mute ourselves? I know there's a few that have not muted yet. That will be helpful. Ivy Main is going to be our guest speaker tonight. I could call her Senator Ivy for how much she knows about these bills. But I just want to say that I've had the opportunity to work with Ivy for like 5 or 6 years now, and her grasp of utility law is phenomenal, and it's equaled only by her ability to translate complex utility regulations into lay language and with humor. Her blog, Power for the People, is one of the best ways to keep up with really the competing financial incentives of electric utilities and clean energy. But tonight, she's going to highlight a different bill, one of our priority bills that deals with data centers and tax giveaways. Ivy, tell us why data centers are such a big deal and what this bill attempts to do. And you can also mention the patrons.
Yeah, thank you, Sharon. That's a more than generous introduction there. I think by now most of you have heard the issues around data centers. Northern Virginia has the largest concentration of data centers in the world by far, and the number has been growing by leaps and bounds and is set to explode with artificial intelligence requiring ever more computing power and ever more energy. And the amount of energy that data centers need is phenomenal. It's already 22% of Dominion's load in Virginia. Big part of a couple of the rural electric cooperatives as well. So it's all across the state, although the focus has really been Northern Virginia. It is starting to expand outside. And the issue here is that with this amount of energy that is required, the Dominion has said that it can't meet the goals of the Clean Economy Act. So it's saying it's not going to be able to retire coal and gas plants on the schedule that the VCEA requires. And they are going ahead with building a new gas plant that had really been dropped from consideration after the passage of the VCEA. So the impact is huge. And at the same time, we give hundreds of millions of dollars in tax incentives to data centers. So I probably wasn't the first person to come up with this question of why are we incentivizing something that is really destroying our energy transition.
Right.
And
It's back to my same problem.
it led to a pretty simple bill here. So this is SB 192, which is Subramanian's, and HB 116, which is Rip Sullivan. The bill has just three pieces to it. It says that if you're going to take Virginia's tax incentives, you must meet a rigorous efficiency score. So there is something called power usage efficiency that measures how efficient a data center is. And we would like them all to meet the scores that the leading data centers already do. Second, by January 1st of 2027, they should be sourcing 90% of their energy from carbon-free renewable sources on a 24/7 basis. And third, they should not be using diesel backup generators. And the diesel generators have come to a head last year when there was a proposal to let them generate electricity whenever there was a grid emergency. And we learned from that just how much of these there were and what a threat that would be to our air quality. We all remember the Canadian wildfires, and if all of these diesel generators had kicked on when those Canadian wildfires were burning, it would have caused a huge pollution problem. So those were the three things that we're asking for. These are not mandates. If you want our tax incentives, you must meet these clean energy goals. And the idea here is that if you can make the data centers more efficient, and if you source renewable energy yourself, meeting your requirements on a 24/7 basis, that takes the pressure off of our utilities to build new generation or to keep dirty generation on the grid. And it also will tell some data centers, if you don't want to do that, go someplace else, because the reason they are here now is that we have relatively cheap electricity, and they want to be near the East Coast load centers. But there are other places they could go if they don't like our conditions. So that's the idea behind that. And Sharon, I don't know if I've said this, if we want to have questions or whatever.
This is great.
I want to do that.
I really thank you for stepping in. I know that Senator Subramanian wanted to be with us tonight, but was just unable at the last minute. So thank you. I want to emphasize this is one of the priority bills also for Sierra Club and many other groups out there. So we will not be doing this alone. What I'd like to do is open this up for about 2 or 3 minutes of questions. We'll keep the questions kind of tight because we've got a lot to cover this particular meeting. So I'll let Monique monitor hands.
I see Chris, the Ministrel. You want to ask your question, Chris?
Before me.
Yep. Did you have a question?
Sure, I'll go ahead. I understand that there was a vote recently by the Prince William County Board of Supervisors kind of gave the go-ahead to a very large kind of a park of data centers, and I understand it's a huge vote. And apparently, so they gave the go-ahead, and there's only a requirement that energy for those data centers is only 10%.
Chris, we are having trouble hearing you. Maybe you can get a little closer to the microphone.
Sure.
Or if you want to put it in the chat, or otherwise we could,
Yeah, that might be better. You're breaking up.
yeah,
Okay, I'll go ahead and put it in the chat. Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right.
okay,
Why
thanks.
don't we move to Bob? Bob Kitchen, do you want to ask your question? And then Randy's next.
Yeah, Ivy, thank you for that summary. And actually, these bills, these two bills look amazing if we could get them across the finish line. But my concern is what happens due to the governor's veto. Is he likely to veto these bills?
That is a really good question. We don't know. The governor was very, very proud of his deal with Amazon Web Services a year ago to have them bring $35 billion worth of data centers to Virginia. Rip Sullivan had said that he talked to Amazon and they didn't hate the bill. And I think there may be some negotiation that happens here. If in fact the leading data centers do end up supporting the bill, then I think it would be a lot harder for the governor to kill it. There's a real difference between tech companies like Amazon and Google. Google in particular is a real leader on sourcing clean energy. Amazon's been a bit of a laggard, but they're both in a much better place than some of the companies that just build the data centers and rent the space to customers. Those data centers don't tend to be as efficient. They don't have, for the most part, sustainability goals. So if we can get some of the tech companies to support the bill, then I think the governor would be less likely to want to veto it. Well, we're going to have to sort of see. I haven't heard what the conversations have been. We've talked to Google and gotten some pretty good feedback, supportive, although they have not come out and said they would support legislation. So that's tough because it's asking the data center coalition to, some members to go against the others, and we'll kind of have to see how that plays out.
Okay, thank you.
And I have Chris's question, given the sound difficulties. Would the proposed bill apply to recent data centers voted by Prince William County? That was that large group approved. It was approved by their Board of Supervisors recently, but only required 10% clean energy. So would a new law apply to these projects that have been approved? They, I guess, would be underway.
Yes, as written, it would. Now, the bill only requires the renewable energy contracts to be in place starting 2027. And the reason for that is that there's a real backup on the transmission grid queue. So there's lots and lots of solar projects, wind projects that want to get added to the transmission grid and can't yet because our regional transmission operator is so far behind the curve. They've promised to catch up by 2026. And so that's why 2027. So these, all of these data centers that are being built now would be looking ahead at that requirement. So by the time they got built, that would be about the time they'd need to be sourcing clean energy.
Great. And Randy, you had a question.
Monique,
Oh,
can we just hold on for just a second? I think
Sure.
what I'd like to do, because I'm afraid we're going to run a little behind. Randy, could you put your question in the chat? And if Ivy can stick around until the end of the meeting, we can go through everybody's questions at that point that we can't get
Sure.
to now, if you don't
Okay.
mind.
I
That
don't
would be
mind. Thank
great.
you.
Thank
And
you.
I-
So just stick it in
And
the
if it's simple enough, I can answer in the chat as well. That might speed things up.
That'd be
We'll
great.
see.
So thank you so much, Ivy. We hope you will stay because I think there's going to be a lot of questions about data centers. I'm also glad to see Ann Bennett's on our call and she can field some of these questions as well. There are
Absolutely.
a lot of data center bills. So thank you very much. And I'd like to turn it to you, Monique.
I'm back to my share screen here. Hopefully you can see that. We're thrilled to have Lena Lewis with us today. She is the Energy and Climate Policy Manager for the Virginia chapter of the Nature Conservancy. There, she focuses on state level policy that can lead to substantial reductions in greenhouse gas emissions. And she focuses on two main areas, energy efficiency and vehicle electrification, both of which have a huge impact on reducing carbon pollution, as you know, but also boosting our economy. And fun fact, prior to this position, she was an environmental science and biology teacher for about 14 years. So we're thrilled to have Lena with us to school us on this new bill. So I will let Lena take it away, and we're going to be transitioning. I am going to stop sharing, and she is going to share her screen. And
Dr. Josephson.
And if other people could mute your,
she's not available.
thank you. All yours,
so
Lena.
great, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Well, so maybe it's because I was a teacher that I like to
Whoops.
have visuals. And so I have slides. So this is the SAVE Act. And Monique, you said whoops, and that makes me wonder.
I tried to pin you,
Okay.
but I wanted to make sure we see your slides full screen. So everyone
Okay.
should see Lena's slides and Lena in the upper corner.
Okay. And let me just keep track of time here as I talk. Okay, so the SAVE Act stands for Savings Achieved via Efficiency. And so this is SB 565 Deeds and HB 746 Webert. So Senator Deeds is a Democrat and Delegate Webert is a Republican. So this already has bipartisan support. The purpose of the SAVE Act is to ensure the success of the energy efficiency resource standard. This is the slide that I was going to end with, but then I realized I should probably just get to the point and start with it in terms of what we are asking of you, which is we need your help to tell your representatives really just to get to the bottom line that you care about energy efficiency and that utilities should be helping their customers to reduce their energy use for the benefit of all their customers. And that the SAVE Act is important to make this happen. The SAVE Act is important to help utilities stay on track with achieving energy efficiency. That's the bottom line. And now I'll get into the details of what energy efficiency means these days, how utilities are already working on energy efficiency for their customers, and then how the SAVE Act is needed to help that be more effective. But really, you don't have to remember everything I'm about to say in order to get to these main points to communicate the importance of having your representatives support the SAVE Act. So when we say energy efficiency, we really are talking about the kinds of examples that you see here on the screen. And energy efficiency is the cleanest, cheapest form of energy. It's the energy that never gets generated in the first place. We are talking about so many different kinds of clean renewable energy, and that's great, but it would be even better to just use less energy in the first place. And we just have wasted energy leaking out of so many parts of our system. There's a lot of ways that we need to be plugging up those leaks. So, you can look at this list and think about which of these things have you done in your home already. And some of them are easy and some of them are hard and some of them are cheap and some of them are expensive. And you might think, for the ones you haven't done yet, why not? Everything on this list is a smart investment in that it will save you money. It is going to earn back what you spent on it and more eventually. And by the way, I see that there's things in the chat, but I can't read them. So I'm just going to wait until later unless it's essential. So like, what are the reasons why these things aren't happening? There's barriers, right? There's barriers, and those barriers are the reasons that we need the state to help out with policies to overcome those barriers. And so I put some of the barriers here. There's upfront costs. Some of these things are expensive and people can't afford those upfront costs. A lot of people don't own the homes that they live in, and so they don't have the power to make those improvements on their homes. And the landlords don't have the incentive to make those homes more energy efficient because they're not the ones that pay the electricity bills. We have a system in which utilities earn more profit based on the more they build out energy generation. So they have the incentive to sell more electricity. And we also have builders who oftentimes don't want to make buildings more energy efficient from the start because that cuts into their profits. So there's a lot of different ways that we can use policy to overcome these barriers. One of those policies is to require our electric utilities to have energy efficiency programs for their customers. So these are some of those programs that we have that Dominion and Appalachian Power have for their customers. Things like free home energy audits, things like rebates for buying more energy efficient appliances. These rebates can also be for business customers, automated systems to control lighting and HVAC. And also free programs for low-income residents to get more energy efficient appliances. These are really important. And you might think, well, how much do these programs cost utilities? The really amazing thing is that when you break it down per kilowatt hour compared to other energy sources, I'll just show, like, these other bars are the cost for energy sources like coal and nuclear and natural gas, kind of broken up across all the electricity they're ever going to generate. And this is for wind and solar. And cheaper than all of those is for utilities to provide energy efficiency for their customers. It is cheaper for utilities to provide energy efficiency for their customers than it is to build out any other kind of electricity generation. And this is a really important selling point because we all pay for this stuff. We all pay for the power generation, and we all pay for the energy efficiency too. So all ratepayers are going to pay less for energy efficiency than for building new power plants. And that means that even if you directly are not the customer that's getting the rebates or getting the energy audits or all these other benefits, you as a ratepayer are going to pay lower energy bills if your neighbors are getting these energy efficiency benefits, because that means that we're not building out more nuclear or coal or even solar. And that also means we're putting less pressure on our farmland and our forests and everything else that's getting stressed by the need for all these resources for these, whether it's coal or solar or gas, right? So all these benefits from energy efficiency. So that's why we want utility energy efficiency programs. Okay, so we have in place a policy called the Energy Efficiency Resource Standard, or the EERS. Not very catchy, but that's its name. This was passed as part of the VCEA. It was also a standalone bill that got a lot of bipartisan support. And this says utilities are going to earn the same profit on energy efficiency programs as they earn on building new power plants. So we're going to treat energy efficiency the same way we treat a new gas power plant. And we're going to require Dominion and Appalachian Power to save a certain amount of energy for their customers every year through energy efficiency programs. And those targets are going to go up every year through 2025. And then after that, the SCC decides what the targets are going to be. So right there is one of the reasons why we have this SAVE Act, because 2025 is coming up and we don't know what targets the SCC is going to set. And we want to know that those targets are going to be continue to go up and up and up, because they should, because that's what happens in utilities in other parts of the country, and it's totally doable. And on top of that, Dominion met their target for energy savings in 2022, and then they're not on track to meet their targets after that. And we're kind of concerned that what's going to happen is the SCC is going to say, oh, Dominion didn't meet these targets for these years. We should set their next targets really, really low. And that's not acceptable, because we need to be increasing our energy efficiency savings. So the SAVE Act addresses 3 problems. Problem number 1, there's no guardrails for the SCC's saving targets for energy efficiency. So the SAVE Act is going to put in a floor for savings targets. The floor says, well, you got to get at least this high, going to be achievable, reasonable, and guarantees that our energy efficiency savings are going to continue. Problem 2, there's not enough incentive for utilities to hit or surpass their savings targets. If there were enough incentive, they'd be doing it. So the SAVE Act allows the SEC to raise or lower the utilities' return on their investment, their profit, based on their success in meeting the targets. And problem 3, now this really gets into the weeds, but the energy efficiency programs have to be cost effective. Their benefits have to exceed their costs. The way that this is currently figured out is really outdated. So the SAVE Act updates that cost effectiveness test. All right, so this gets back to what we need from you. Tell your representatives you care about energy efficiency. The utilities should help their customers reduce their energy use because it benefits everybody. And the SAVE Act is important to you. So that is the end of my slides. So I can stop sharing. And now I can read everything in the chat, unless they were all questions for Ivy. Yes. All right.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Monique, we have time, I think, for a few questions. So
we do. Thank you very much, Lena. You make this much more understandable than most people. Can get pretty technical. Any questions from the group? Raise your hand.
I see a question to share the slide with specific ideas to use less energy. You want me to put that on the screen now, or just like share it out to the group? That was from Joy.
Whatever's easiest. I just thought that was a great slide to share with people. Just in general, it's just good knowledge to share.
Yeah, I mean, I know that Monique can share that slide later, but just to put it up right now. And this is just the beginning. There's other things too.
Lena, how do you feel about us sharing your slideshow with our group? Would you be okay with that?
I probably would.
Well, you can think about it.
Yeah, I think I would.
Okay, that'd be great.
Let me give you a confirmation.
Sure.
After the webinar or the meeting.
Yeah. Sure, that would be great.
Okay.
Any other questions? And I'm sort of scanning the I see people talking about the IRA tax credits, but I think that's
That might be.
I have a question, Lena.
Yeah, and I'm just reading because I know that was the IRA tax credits for the energy efficiency, or is that for the data center?
I'm not sure.
I believe we're talking about energy efficiency incentives, and the tax credits are out, but the state managed rebates are slowly coming out. I wonder if there's any penalty you can put on our utility that they won't just pass along in higher costs to ratepayers. Is that?
That is a good question. So the way that this bill works is it last session, there was, for this particular penalty, it was, I'm forgetting the name of it. Ivy, if you're still here, maybe you've got it. It was the performance-based something. And it allows like the
Performance-based
whole
rate make.
performance-based
making. Sorry.
right, performance-based rate making, and it allows for the SCC to adjust the utilities profit margin or like rate of profit based on various metrics. And so the SAVE Act would add energy efficiency into the list of metrics that the SCC could consider. And so that's not like money that then would get passed on to the ratepayers. That's just less money that the utility would earn. And just I have to put in a plug for the IRA here. There's so many programs in the IRA, and right now there are a whole bunch of federal rebates for energy efficiency that you as a homeowner can get directly from the federal government for buying energy efficient appliances and installation and things like that. It doesn't require the state to do anything. So if you've been thinking about making an improvement to your dwelling, just look it up. Just look up federal rebates or tax credits, because there's savings to be had. So maybe that'll encourage you to go ahead and get it done.
And there's a note here. Well, there's one note about induction stoves maybe not being as efficient as they could be. I'm sorry, let's see, the question, it says induction stoves only waste about 16% of the energy it uses compared to 26% for electric stoves and 60% for gas. So induction is a good switch now if you have an electric stove. And then ACEEE ranks Virginia's energy efficiency programs as 20th nationally. So there's a lot of room to improve. And I've heard that pretty regularly. And someone chimed in about getting benefits for their windows. So
There you go.
great. Well, thanks everybody for all the chat info. And thank you, Lena, for being with us today. I don't know if we have one extra minute or two, but Sharon, Lena's also the expert on the clean cars. And we did put out an action about the clean cars, attempts to repeal it. And we had some very good response. And Lena, I don't know if you kind of know the action in play. There's a important committee meeting tomorrow. And I don't know if you have a sense of how this is going to play out.
Yeah, so tomorrow the Senate Agriculture Natural Resources Committee is going to be meeting, and they're going to be considering 3 bills that are all designed to repeal the clean car standards. So it is our hope and ambition to end the ride for all 3 of these bills tomorrow. The Senate, that committee has 8 Democrats and 7 Republicans. And so far, the clean car standards votes have gone entirely along party lines. So we don't have a lot of room for error since it's a 8-7 split on that committee. We really need to ensure that all 8 Democrats vote to oppose that bill. So really do appreciate any communication that you've sent to your senators on that. And we'll have a similar situation coming up in the House as well. I've lost count if it's 3 or 4 House bills that are trying to repeal the clean car standards, but we'll need the same thing there.
Great. Well, let us know when those come through. And Meredith kindly put our action in the chat. So if you haven't taken the action, you can click on this link, and after the call, it literally takes, you'll need to concentrate for a few minutes. So you may not want to be off the call when we have the senator join us. But it takes 3 minutes of your time and sends the emails out directly. So, and we have draft copy there for you.
I would just add that we've been hearing from a lot of legislators that they've been hearing all of them have been hearing from opponents of the clean car standards. A lot of misinformation, but nevertheless opponents. So it's really good to hear from them, no matter who your representative is. If you support the clean car standards, let them know. They just really need to hear from you because they're definitely hearing from opponents.
Great.
To that end, Meredith, how many calls to action do we send out over the last, since you first issued it on Sunday? Or was it even Sunday?
We've had 40 participants send nearly 300 emails. So great start.
So I say bravo,
everybody.
everybody. Yep, thank you so much. We are waiting for Senator Hashmi, who was supposed to hop on right around 7:35. She's not yet with us. I've just texted her aide just to make sure there's no delays. But in the meantime, I want to thank Lena for spending her time with us and taking the time to explain the SAVE Act, which I think is one of the best bills that we've got going this session. Maybe what we should do at this point is skip to our last slide where we have a couple of outstanding items we're going to go over. And then if Senator Hashmi is not with us, then we'll start on the next section of the program. So Monique, I'm going to let you take us to the last slide, second to the last slide.
Sure, just sharing my screen.
That's
So
a
we're
good
gonna have
question. When is the bill going to be on the docket? I'm not sure. Meredith, do you know what time the Lena, what time the Ag Committee begins?
It's one of those things where it says it begins 30 minutes after the adjournment of the Senate whole floor session. So we never know exactly when it's going to begin because we don't know how long the whole Senate is going to be meeting. Sometime
Yeah.
in the afternoon.
Yes.
That's okay. Thank you.
Yes.
So we're going to run through this slide really quickly. We just wanted to point out, in fact, I think I'll just run through it super fast, that we are having a lot of lobby days coming up. There's a full list on the Virginia Grassroots Coalition website. We want to highlight the Lobby Day by Sierra Club, Virginia Conservation Network, as well as the Affordable Energy Coalition. That is a coalition that's kind of headed up by Clean Virginia. We are also going to be showing more and more of our correspondence with you through Action Network. If we could go back to that last slide, that would be great, Monique.
I'm trying.
Through Action Network. And I'm just curious, is that working for you guys? Are you receiving our Action Network calls to action? If we could just kind of see a show of hands, that would be awesome. Okay, if you haven't, if you're not, what we really need to get from you is to go onto the Virginia Grassroots Coalition website, and Meredith is going to put the link in there. And there is a very short form to fill out that provides us with your email information and your address, and then you will be able to get our calls to action through Action Network. It's a very efficient way for us to do business. So again, if you have not signed up yet, please do, because we're going to be using Action Network more and more. The other point I really wanted to make is that we are going to be, we are considering letting our email Google group communicate more back and forth with each other. Communication thus far has been one way. We thought maybe we would try again to see if it makes sense for us to have more interactive communication. So we'll be trying that out, and it gives you the opportunity to respond to us if you get something by email. If it looks like we have too many emails back and forth, we may stop that practice, but we thought we'd just play around with it for a while. I think, Monique, do you want to say anything about our calls to action, the importance of them?
Well, we've heard from a lot of delegates and senators that we've spoken to, similar to what Lena said, that when they really need to hear from constituents and they need to see what people are thinking, because when they're sitting in these committee meetings, it's really important for them to be able to say, I've gotten, you know, I've heard from 40 people on this. It's really important. So it helps them when there are objections raised. And it is helpful if you can add your own story and your own twist. And if you're very clear which bills, you know, you're either opposing or supporting. So we try to do that with the way we prepare it. The other calls to action that may occur during the session is we may ask people to testify. And there's, you know, there in some cases they can do remote testimony. And then I see someone's raised their hand. So let's switch to Annette. Do you have a question, Annette?
Yeah, I did. I said I get the call. I've gotten calls to action, and every time I try, but it doesn't seem like too many have come out yet, right?
No.
This was the first one in the Action Network, actually, and it's everyone's scrambling now. And
is there any way we can know if we've already filled it out, or does it matter if we filled it out, or is it filtered if we fill it out? Because I know I did one earlier, but I can't remember what it was, and then I just now did this one.
I think Stair can help confirm this. She is the pro on Action Network, but I believe one of the
Thank you. I was
advantages
just
is
about
it
to
will
try-
tell us.
Thank you.
It
I
will
was
tell
just
you.
about to try to jump in. So I see that as a problem. I see that as a big problem, actually. And so I'm thinking that for me, it's going to be the way I'm going to keep track of it is I'm going to do them when I get them on my Tuesday tidbits, because I'm going to send them out Tuesdays, Thursdays. They're all going to be in a line. Yes, I know they're also all going to be on Dennis's website, but that's one way that you can go back and you've got a list of all of them together. I think that's one way. So
I don't understand what a tidbit is there, but maybe this is.
Sorry. Yeah, no, it's just my newsletter.
Oh, that.
Yeah.
Sorry, no,
So I'm going to be having 2 newsletters. Okay. For during the legislative session, and both of them are going to have a running list of calls to action. Okay. So, and I'll always note which are the new ones.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm thinking that will help.
Oh, I have to, sorry, just to interrupt to say that Senator Hashmi is in caucus right now, won't be able to tune in tonight. We apologize for this last minute change. We hope to connect soon, says her legislative assistant 2 minutes ago.
Well, I just heard that as well. So what I would like to do is we are not going to be daunted by this. We are going to keep cruising and have some fun. I think what I would like to do is I'm happy to talk about our third priority bill, but I would also like to call on Ivy if she is willing to chat about the ARC bill. Ivy, are you up for talking again?
I am.
Give it just a couple of minutes. I promise. I won't, we won't keep you on the hot spot for so long. You get to be called senator twice tonight.
Isn't that awesome? Yeah, so let me pull this up. Okay, so it's HB 638 and SB 230. This is really a coalition bill. The Southern Environmental Law Center, Advanced Energy United, and several of the other environmental groups that are in VCN worked on the bill. And it does a number of things. And let me make sure that I've got my notes in front of me on this. Yeah, so it's basically, it's making tweaks to the Virginia Clean Economy Act in response to things that have happened in the last couple of years. And, you know, as we have discovered that there are barriers we didn't know about or issues that have come up, it's trying to respond to that. So it tells the SEC that it should implement the Commonwealth Energy Policy at least cost, which makes me a little nervous sometimes because we would like them to be taking into account climate change. But interestingly, when you're talking about the energy policy, that's not just the VCEA, that's also the Commonwealth energy policy that is actually more aggressive than than the VCEA. So I think that's really exciting that it is looking beyond the VCEA to the entire energy policy, which covers things beyond electricity, covers the entire economy where energy is concerned. And so telling the SEC that it's got to go out and implement that and at least cost is a really interesting and exciting way of starting to look at the whole economy. It slims down the SEC's review of utility energy efficiency programs to a single cost effectiveness test, and that's because the SEC has never been really good at approving energy efficiency programs. And it will look at different things and it'll say, nah, it's not good enough. So the idea is that you take a federal standard for energy efficiency, cost effectiveness, and just use that. And that should help more efficiency programs get approved. Then it also tackles it encourages distributed solar generation by increasing the percentage of the renewable portfolio standard that has to be met with small projects. So the idea is that the utilities will have to buy more renewable energy certificates from rooftop solar, and that encourages rooftop solar. It supports the industry, and it also, so there's a whole lot to it. Okay. Next, it changes the percentage of renewable energy projects that are reserved for third-party developers from 35% to at least 35%. And this was, they thought in the VCEA that they were leaving a big chunk of projects to the private sector. And then Dominion interpreted it in a way that really capped the amount that could be fulfilled by this private sector. So this fixes that by opening up more opportunities for competition, which again should help keep prices down, spur more development, more competition, support the free market, all good stuff. And
That's pretty good.
yeah, so there's a few other things. There's a few other things it does that maybe I don't think I could summarize clearly. I can try.
Ivy, I think you hit the highlights. I think you did a great
I think that
job.
those are the highlights. There are a couple other things it does that are that I like. It does some good stuff in terms of clarifying language. The old code language is confusing. Surprise, surprise. So it's great that when they've got the opportunity, they clarify things.
Thank you, Ivy. We really are grateful. We can take one question for Ivy on the ARC bill. So if you have a question, go ahead and ask. And after that, we get to vote on what will be our 2 bills you guys get to choose to include in our priorities.
Any questions? That was a lot to absorb.
I apologize. If I'd realized I was going to be Senator Hashmi, I'd have prepared better.
Yeah.
Well, it's a hugely technical, I think if people think of it in terms of a technical fix to make the Virginia Clean Economy Act more effective, and that even that 35% that you mentioned has been interpreted as a ceiling, they've now made it a floor so that more third-party providers can help build and at a better cost these projects. That's a huge one. So thank you. You did a great job. All right. Well,
thank you.
I think we're ready for our vote, Sharon.
Yeah. So
I will go back to my screen and share. We'll review what we've narrowed it down to.
Okay, you guys, here's how we're going to do this. We're going to run through some bills very quickly, and then we're going to ask you guys to vote thumbs up your top 2 priority bills. And we're going to have you do this in the chat after I've gone through the bills, and I mean really briefly with you guys. So bill number 1 is performance-based utility regulation. This is a Rip Sullivan Lee Ware bill. It's one that I personally am super excited about because it kind of changes how the utilities will do business. It's a study bill, and it basically requires a detailed evaluation of new regulatory processes that would actually better align utilities' financial incentives with climate and clean energy laws. Maybe we don't have to butt heads with utilities all the time. The study is very thoughtfully laid out. It's a fabulous bill. It examines how to enhance cost containment incentives, identify and determine how to eliminate all the disincentives that are in the current laws for distributed or rooftop solar. It looks at energy efficiency savings, peak load reductions, and then it looks at our current regulatory framework and where there are problems with that. The bill then requires the State Corporation Commission to come back and do an analysis and provide recommendations. The bill is going to be done, the bill requires it to be done as transparently as possible. There's going to be a robust stakeholder process. And then, as I mentioned, a report with recommendations by October 15th, 2025. I think it's a very cool bill. Monique, if you could just take a second, is there something else I've missed? Maybe something noteworthy?
You mentioned that it is going to be a study conducted by the SEC, the State Corporation Commission, which regulates utilities in our state, in the Commonwealth, in conjunction with the Department of Energy. So they'll be doing this in collaboration. I think the other thing is to think about this is it's essentially seeking to modernize how utilities are paid, how they make a profit, while ensuring reliability, customer satisfaction. You mentioned cost containment, and deploying the best available and lowest cost technology as we make this shift from coal and natural gas plants to clean renewables. And I think the other thing is this is a long-term play. Other states have had some success implementing pieces, but it's going to take time, and having this detailed study with a stakeholder process is a very critical first step. It seems like a no-brainer, but it'll take a lot of work, and it'll be interesting to see if folks can come together in a bipartisan way and pass this.
Thank you. Next up, rural EV infrastructure. That's Rip Sullivan again. This bill creates an electric vehicle rural infrastructure grant fund to assess private developers, build charging stations in distressed communities throughout the Commonwealth. Very straightforward, very simple bill. Meredith, is there anything you can add to this? Is there something you like about this bill?
Yes, the comment I would like to add is if rural communities see EVs as solely working for urban folks, we won't get the level of support for the transition we need. And while Biden directed significant federal funds to build charging infrastructure along highways, we need speedy private developers to be incentivized in these rural and underserved communities.
Thank you. Thank you. Next up, solar and net zero ready municipal buildings. Senator Favola has played the long game with solar ready roofs. This is the third year our senator has brought this bill forward. It requires all state and municipal buildings and those that are undergoing major renovations to be designed to accommodate solar ready roofs, meaning that the roofs have to be able to accommodate solar panels or be energy efficient. And for schools, Senator Favola has upped the ante. She has required in this bill that they be designed and constructed to be net zero. we have supported this bill in the past. Meredith, do you remember how many calls to action we've sent out over the last couple of years on this bill?
Yes, we chose this bill to support in 2022 when basically everything else was oppose this. We wanted to have something to vote for, and we had about 70 people typically engage on an action on that. And last year, tougher, although it flew through the Senate, we went down and testified in person in committee. So yeah, we've been backing this. We like this, and it's an easy one to explain to our neighbors. For instance, my neighborhood elementary school just finished a major renovation. There's no solar on it because they need the guidance earlier in the process.
Yep. Solar interconnection bill. I think Kathy Hoekstra asked about this one. This bill fixes net metering issues. Many of you know net metering is a program that allows utility customers, that's you or me or a business, to install solar panels and get credited for excess electricity they send to the grid. Dominion, current law requires that utilities, that is Dominion, to approve the connection of these solar panels or facilities to the grid within 30 days for individuals, 60 days for businesses, but there's no enforcement provision. So what's happened is Dominion has simply dragged its feet, I mean, interminably in some situations, and people just aren't able to get hooked up. So the bill, it will impose penalties on Dominion, and there's going to be a similar bill for I guess you call it the APCO affiliates, AEP, so that they will also have to meet these requirements as well. So that's a bill to watch for that we do like. Two more bills. One is a shared solar. They fix the minimum requirements. Shared solar, and this is a bill that's offered by Sullivan and Suravel. Shared solar, also known as community solar, allows utility customers to buy solar energy from third-party providers. That means they get to buy from somebody other than Dominion. But Dominion is allowed to charge participants to defray its costs. And this has included a lot of overhead so that the average minimum amount a customer has to pay is $55 just to hook up to the program. So this bill will fix this problem by specifying that there are only a limited number of costs that can be included in this particular bill. So it makes it much more affordable. And finally, the last bill that we are going to let you vote on is a bill where, and this is offered by, it's a study offered by Brianna Sewell, where there are barriers to municipalities that make it hard for them to purchase directly clean energy. The bill will study what these barriers are and make some recommendations about how to get rid of these barriers so that municipalities are going to be able to move forward and directly purchase clean energy. So those are our bills. What we're going to do now is we hope everybody's going to have a little bit of fun. You get to vote thumbs up for two different bills, and we're going to put each bill one at a time in the chat. We're going to have you do a thumbs up. And our first bill is performance-based utility regulation. Everybody go ahead. If you want this bill, put a thumbs up in the chat.
I'm trying to figure out where to put the thumbs up. Okay.
Oh, the thumbs up. If you go to your
yeah, but the thumbs up
let's
ends
see.
up. Oh, there
You can click right on it. So if you are right by Meredith's message, you see the little thumb there, you should be able to click right on it, right? Doesn't that work?
Yeah, you can do that too.
I thought I put a thumbs up, but my thumbs up went to my.
But other people have written thumbs up, so we'll save the string here.
Sharon, may I ask a preliminary question? While we're doing this, maybe I missed something, but why are we voting for these two? Is this for the Grassroots Coalition priority
Yes,
letter?
yes. Yeah,
Okay, good.
we've been doing this we kind of do our own research and figure out, we identified 3 bills, and then we thought it would be fun to let you guys help us decide the other 2 bills.
Sure. No, I just wanted to clarify what the goal of the exercise was. Thank you very much.
Yep. Okay, so how about rural EV infrastructure? Thumbs up if this is you want this to be one of our grassroots priority bills. Okay, how about solar and net zero ready public buildings? Oh, I don't know if we've got that in the chat yet, do we?
Oh, we don't. Meredith, do you want to put that in, or do you want one of us to grab it? Oops, it's hard to do from my screen share.
Okay, we got solar ready schools up.
And you can click right on that thumb, and you can even, if you hover, you can see who's voted.
Yep.
So that's the easiest rather than doing your own thumbs up.
Okay, let's go to solar interconnection. Are we going to force Dominion to pay for delay? Okay, shared solar minimum bill fix.
Okay.
All right, and let's see here. Finally, study on municipal barriers to access clean energy. Okay.
So if you haven't used your 3 up yet, here's that. This is the last one. You get 3 votes.
No,
I'm sorry, 2.
2.
I'm sorry, you get 2. Sorry, Sharon, I misspoke. If you get 2, and if you haven't used all 2 votes yet, you can scroll back and click on the one you like and add your vote.
So I want to, while Monique and Meredith are tallying these up, I want to say that the Virginia Grassroots Coalition, and John, thanks for pointing this out, only lets each working group put together 5 priority bills for publication to all of the Democrats in the General Assembly. However, just because we didn't include any more than the top 2 bills that you guys are voting on now in that list doesn't mean we can't periodically potentially work on these other bills, but we can only include 5 bills in the official priorities letter that we send out from the Virginia Grassroots Coalition. Rest assured, you will probably see some of these bills, some calls to action on some of these other bills as well. So I apologize for not making that clear early on. Have we got winners yet, guys?
The performance-based regulation, that long play, seems to have quite a few votes. We're still tallying.
Okay. While we're tallying, is anybody excited about these bills? We can take the Monique, we can probably take the slideshow down so we can see everybody's faces. Yay! Who's excited
Yes.
about these bills?
And did you see from
the
the chat, Ivy said that Barbara Favola's bill will be up on Wednesday.
All right, there you have it. So that's exciting. You'll probably see a call to action on that one. So we've got, we're 5 minutes over. I'm going to stop recording at this point, but we are going to stick around so that if you guys want to chat some more about these bills, Ivy, if you can stay, and Lena, that we'd love it if you can stay. If not, we understand.